Welcome to the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. My name is Jin Ong and I'm your host. I practice as an osteopath and psychosomatic therapist and am fascinated by the mind-body connection and how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. I help people get unstuck from their chronic pain and live the life they want, grounded in values and driven by purpose. My aim is to create awareness to the underlying emotions behind pain, injury, and disease in the body. Join me to learn more about the story of your body, what different issues may indicate, how to release emotions so that you can prevent problems, as well as inspiring pain story interviews. Hey guys, just before I get into today's podcast, which is an amazing one, I wanted to share with you about the live masterclass that I did last week, which is recorded. I'm just absolutely blown away by the support. I didn't expect so many people to register. I was going for maybe a couple of hundred at a stretch, but had 666 people, which is a bit of a magic number, register for the live masterclass, and over a couple of hundred turned up, and a lot of you stayed until the end. It was 2 hours. I was pretty stressed out about what to share because it was the first one that I've recorded for everyone to watch the replay. And I thought, gosh, I really have to deliver the information now. And I was just paralyzed. I couldn't think about what it was I was going to share. So I decided to speak from the heart, but I do think it flowed pretty well. I talked all about how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. But I know that people want to take that a level deeper. A lot of people get this. They know that emotions get stored in the body and cause pain, discomfort, injury, disease, illness, and all the mental imbalances when life just doesn't feel like it's flowing. They know it, but they don't know what to do about it. And that's where I come in. That's where I love to talk about processing versus coping with your emotions, to stop with the positive affirmations and that optimistic outlook, which works short term, but doesn't work in the long term. So this is for those of you who are stuck with where you're at with your general health, physically or mentally, and you know that there are deeper emotions at play. I would love you to go grab the replay and have a watch. I'm not too sure how long it's going to be up. It's 2 hours and I talk about my story. I do a lot of storytelling on there to help you grasp the concepts of this whole physical body as a manifestation of your emotional state. I share my story, and then the biggest thing is I want you to get this information. So I talk about the processes that I take my clients through to get a release, to elicit a release, and the amazing stuff that happens when people release at a deeper level, or what I call the cathartic release. And then I talked a little bit about how Eastern medicine and Eastern philosophies interweave into this and how I use it. So I talk about how to work out where you're storing emotions and what emotions you're storing, because sometimes we know they're buried in there, but we don't know what they are. And then the fascinating Ayurvedic doshas and how understanding yourself and others can help you along this path. And the work goes so much deeper, which is why I've released my 6-week course called Release, so that you can dive in deeper with this. We've already got an amazing group together. I want to offer this because my one-to-ones are not available for everyone. It's limited as to how many people I can see. I am booked up until October at this stage, and I don't really enjoy having to turn people away who need this work. So if you resonate with everything that I've shared on the podcast, I definitely recommend you go and watch the replay or just listen into it. I've had feedback of people crying while they're listening to it because it just hits home. I talk a bit about the unspoken stuff, and I'll be sure to dive into that way more on my 6-week course, which starts March 2nd. I will pop the links in the podcast notes, but the course page is courses.theartoflisteningtoyourbody.com/release, and you can grab the replay on there. And I just say, trust your heart. If it all speaks to you, then jump on board and join me. I'm here to support you with an amazing group of support coaches and give you the foundations to this work. and a lifelong skill that you can use to process your emotions. So thanks for listening and enjoy this podcast with Carla. I'm always so grateful for any podcast guest that comes on here and shares their story. With Carla's, we split it into 3 different chapters, 3 very different experiences that she has had in this life. And I love this because it goes to show where people were and what they've been through before they present as the person that we know them as today. I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up around this podcast. One of the stories or chapters of Carla's life that she shares is about the early days of being a mother to a special needs child. And some of the stories that she shares may upset some of you, but I am so glad that she has spoken about this so openly, because I do believe it will speak to the tired mums out there, perhaps the tired and exhausted mums of newborns, and those who have special needs children. Now, I always know, and my guests always know, that their story is not going to speak to everyone out there, and that is not the intent. So please listen from a place of no judgment. And I hope that what she shares will give you a different perspective and help you come from a place of understanding for other parents that may be in this situation. In her second chapter, we cover her upbringing in a certain religious environment. And again, I want you to know that I have no judgment for anyone who follows a certain set of beliefs. But I know that I've come across many clients and friends who have been brought up with different belief systems and start to come up with conflicts and wondering what to do. So there is nothing against anyone who chooses to follow the belief system that Carla was brought up in, but this is her story. And again, I know that it will speak to a certain number of people. Carla Jones is a wife and mother of 2 based in Sydney. When she's not carpooling the kids to school, she spends her time reading human design charts for people and taking shamanic journeys to the Akashic records. She even does some animal channeling work. As an intuitive, she really understands the needs of empaths and highly sensitive people. Carla still sees herself as a small child that is always asking, why? She loves questioning things and finding her own truth, her way. With a colourful childhood upbringing in a cult, Carla has always sided with the outsider looking in. She's a curious seeker who loves connecting with people and loves even more to assist and guide them to find their true selves and purpose in life. Carla wanted me to add on this disclaimer about her sharing this story. This is my story of the experience with Ruben and his additional needs. While his needs are now levelling out and he is in a good place, it doesn't mean this is the case with all children that have special needs and challenges in life. Sometimes there is no visible improvement. I totally admire and respect parents and carers that have had a much harder road daily, and it's their bravery and soldiering on that kept me going most days. Welcome to the podcast today, Carla. Thank you so much for joining me. And you're going to be sharing a few stories with us today and who you are in this world. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm a listener of your podcast. So to be sitting on this side, I'm honoured. So thank you. My name's Carla. I live in Sydney. I have 2 kids and a husband. From a young age, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've worked since I was 16 with women, mainly in hair and makeup, actually. So I used to do bridal makeup, and I also did makeup in TV. So I've done lots of interesting things. I wouldn't necessarily say crazy things, but very creative, you could call me. I've been curious about human design now. So I've been working with women again, doing that. So I can tell you a bit more about that later. But yeah, I've just always found myself curious about humans, human behavior, the body-mind connection, which is where I found you. So yeah, I'm just a curious human.
The human design is fascinating, and yeah, I'll definitely be picking your brains on that a little bit later. But I'm always interested in people's backstory and I guess those pain stories. So the first one is that you are a mum to two kids and your son is a special needs child. I don't know if that's the right word to
Mhm.
use, but can you tell me a little bit about Reuben?
So Reuben is my second child, as you mentioned. My first child was a Sienna, my daughter, easy baby. So I just thought having a second child, this is going to be easy. But from the get-go, it just felt different. The pregnancy was different. There was a lot of stress going on. My husband's a builder. We were building a house at the time to flip. So we were trying to hurry up and sell this house before the baby came. And yeah, Reuben came along and he was tiny when he was born. And just one thing after another, just health issues started mounting up. And we thought, this child's different. We couldn't lay him down. He had massive reflux. So changing his nappy was an issue. Bathing him was an issue. Anything to put him down. Sleeping, this kid wouldn't sleep. And after many visits to pediatricians and all sorts of doctors, we took a blood test. It was a genetic test. And he was 5 months old, we discovered he had this, I think it's 1 in 40,000 births, this syndrome, and it's called Williams syndrome. So there alone, I just thought, what the hell is this? Like, how can this be? I'm so healthy. I don't smoke. I'm eating really cleanly. Like, why me? And why Reuben? Like, this is terrible. I just saw it as terrible.
So what is Williams syndrome?
So it's similar to Down syndrome, where kids or people with Williams syndrome have a look, like a facial look. They've got like a little upturned nose, smaller features. If they've got blue eyes, they can have starburst eyes. And actually in folklore, people had Williams syndrome and they thought they were magical. They thought they were elves. So they're smaller in stature and they're just, by nature, love people. It's almost like the opposite of autism. You know, autistic kids generally don't like to make eye contact. Well, Williams syndrome kids love eye contact and love strangers and facial recognition. And yeah, so it was interesting because immediately we found out he had heart issues. I mean, a lot of these kids end up having major heart surgery. Like reading into it, it was just all doom and gloom. It said in the pamphlet we were given, some of these kids never climb stairs, they never go to school, they're basically a burden, is how I read into it. It's like, oh wow, so this kid is just going to need my help and my husband's help for the rest of his life. They have developmental delays, and yeah, it just sounded like this is all too hard. I didn't sign up for this. How do I get out of it?
Yeah, so what else was going through your mind? You touched a little bit on why me. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Well, like I said, I thought everything by the book. I guess I never, up until that point, factored in that anyone can have a special needs child. Like, why not me? But I guess the first thing was when we were leaving the hospital, he failed the swish test, the hearing test, and going to specialists with a newborn, there was talk of him needing hearing aids. And that alone had me in tears for days. I thought, this is a disability. Like this is going to look bad. Like my upbringing was all about, well, it's very Italian upbringing, where if you look right and, you know, you're driving the right car and you look the part, everything's fine. Whereas this, it's almost like, well, how do I go on with my life? This child, I don't know. Am I the right mother for him? I started questioning everything. Do I adopt him? Like it was really, this is not for me. I'm not the mother for Reuben. I'm not a patient person. I'm going to need patience. At that point, Ollie, like I said, we were trying to sell a house. So he didn't have income. Both of us, Ollie and I, home, looking after this newborn that wouldn't sleep, that wouldn't feed on me. Like there was so many issues to deal with. Plus he wouldn't sleep. So our stress levels, not just mine, but our stress levels were through the roof. Ollie and I were tag teaming sleeping. And so, yeah, slowly but surely it was like a downward spiral now that I look back at it. And it was just a matter of time before something was going to happen, like something bad. Because, yeah, I was just very unstable, but like appearing to the outside world, like everything's fine, all good here. I don't need help. I can carry on. This is my second child. I know what to do. But it was just getting harder and harder.
Were people awkward asking you what was wrong?
Yes. And I didn't like to even broach the subject. So, yeah, people would say, what's wrong with Ruben? He's so little, and what's with all the crying? And I really didn't know what to say, that I tried to sweep it under the carpet. I really didn't accept his diagnosis, was bottom line. I always loved Ruben, but his diagnosis took me about 18 months to accept. And it was like banging my head against a wall. Like really, it's like if I had just accepted it, it would have been so much simpler. But I just saw it as, oh my God, this is going to be a hard life for him and us. And yeah, I don't know if I'm equipped to do it, to be honest.
Because just having a child and then a second child is a transition enough for a lot of people as a mum and then within the family unit, but then to have a special needs child as well. And you are quite an independent person who just does it. You're a career person. I think you wanted to go back to work as well. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what's happening with my life now? And
Yeah,
this child is going to need me and depend on me.
yeah, exactly. Ollie and I had made a plan that he would be the stay-at-home dad for this child and Sienna, and I would go straight back into hairdressing. I was renting out a chair in a salon rather in Paddington. So I thought I can do this. Like I'm booking clients around the kids' school drop-offs, like it was a real plan. And in my micromanaging way, like, yep, business as usual. I'll go back to weddings and I'll do hair clients. Like it was all just laid out. But yeah, it was no, you're the one with the boobs, Carla, and Ruben needs to be fed. And he couldn't have formula. We attempted it. Formula, he would vomit it out his nostrils. He was allergic. So it was like, wow, this is life showing me, sit down. You've got this hummingbird energy of thinking you're right and doing all these things. Sit down and take a good look at yourself. And it was now that I look back, yeah, life showing me who's boss, and it wasn't me.
Yes, so he's like your crisis point in the nicest possible way. It wasn't the health issue that you experienced necessarily. And we're going to share another story later that you've been through, but rather maybe he's the gift and he's the message for you to make that turnaround in your life.
Definitely. I remembered at a certain point when he was quite young, I heard a news report about a mother and father out in the like poorer suburbs of Sydney flicking their special needs child on the train, and people had caught it on video. And I just thought, that poor child in that situation. And it sort of drove the point home of, well, maybe Ruben's picked me and picked us. At least I can show him love. I might not know everything about Williams syndrome. I might not be one of those special needs moms that all they talk about is their kid with special needs and advocates to the heights with it. But I know how to love him. And if I can just do that, I think that maybe that's enough.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later as well, because I am mindful that one day Ruben might listen to this podcast.
Yes.
But you have done a lot of healing around this. But if we go back again in those early days, you reached a real down point. And I'd love for you to be able to share this, because that's why I bring people onto this podcast, to share the stuff that we don't speak about. And I know that there are probably other mums out there, even ones that don't have special needs kids, who are struggling and have these thoughts of what they would do. And I'm all about, let's prevent this. And it is around emotional expression, speaking up and communicating. But when we don't, and our emotional cup gets too full with all the stresses of life, that's when it gets too full, it spills over and we pull the trigger and we do the things that we really regret. So there was a pretty pivotal moment while you were looking after Ruben. Can you share the story and the lead up to that and what actually happened?
Yeah, I share this because I know that I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only mom that's felt this, but no one talks about it. And it was a point where he was about 8 or 10 months old. Again, we had the diagnosis, but he still wasn't sleeping through the night. And it was my turn to be up with Ruben. And I just remember getting like this message of, you need to smother him. You need to end his life. It's actually a favor for him. And in the Middle Ages, any child that was a burden would have gotten rid of this way. They'd drown their kids all the time. So I took it upon myself that night. Something told me about, it was like the numbers. I remember it was the 22nd of April, 2016. And I did this quick adding up and it just added up to death, like the end. It was 9. And I didn't question it. And I remember grabbing a pillow. It was just like a cushion from the lounge. Everyone else was asleep in the house, Sienna and Ollie. We were in a 2-bedroom apartment. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just remembered thinking, this is what has to happen. And I was just very, it has to be this way. I'm getting all the messages. This kid's in pain. I can't help him. I'm not the mum for him. I'm just going to end it. And I remember putting the pillow over his little face and he was crying. And it was honestly, it felt like a long time, but it would have been maybe, not even 30 seconds in the big scheme of things. And Ollie came out and he said, "What are you doing?" And it was just this moment of, what am I doing? It kind of snapped me out of it. And I thought, who do I think I am playing God? Like, I don't decide who lives and who dies. And P.S., what if I did further damage and had a child that needed more care, that didn't die? So it was like this moment of clarity where, thank God Ollie came out, that I just said, no, this is not the way. And I was crying and on my knees. And I thought, I think I've flipped. I think this is it. And I remember having a friend in high school. She actually had anorexia, and she would do some crazy things. Like when she went to sleep at night, she rolled up this towel and put it under her door so no calories could get through under the door and stick to her. And as an onlooker, you kind of go, that's some crazy stuff. But for her, that was real. And I just had that moment where I thought about her and thought, I think now I'm the crazy one. Like, I believed that for a second and now I'm back for a minute and I can't do that. That's not right. And it is a mental thing. It's a mental chemical imbalance. Little did I know at the time, this is called postnatal depression. And that's what I had, undiagnosed. And I mean, people were in and out of our apartment. We were doing early intervention with Ruben. I was just putting on the show. I was, everything's fine, nothing to see. I can cope. And I couldn't ask for help. And I just thought this is my burden in life. This is what I have to carry. And it was really, my head was like a piano out of tune. Every note I'm banging is just out of tune. There's nothing bad about that. And this is mental health. You just need the piano to be tuned. Like it's this stigma that's still in society where we'll go to a dentist for a toothache, but we won't go and talk about our mental health headache, so to speak. But when the story, when this happened, I just thought, I really need to control myself. I know that there could be another moment like this, but I can't do that. I can't keep running from this. This is my lot. So deal with it. And I was just dealing with it for a few months more till it got bad again. And I remember waking up one morning thinking, oh God, I don't feel right. This could be the day that something crazy happens. And trying to shake it. and going to have a quick shower, and through my head, I had these thoughts again. I think I have to end it. I think Ollie, who was out of the apartment that morning, I think Ollie deserves better than this. I should end my life and take the kids with me. And it just made perfect sense. I had no plan as such, but I just thought that, yep, I'm going to do it. I think I need to do this. It's for him and for the betterment of his future, because the weight on his shoulders was starting to show. And I remember coming out of the shower, a mess, and there was a knock at the door, and it was my mum and dad coming to visit. And they saw me and said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "You need to call an ambulance. Please call an ambulance. I'm about to do something really dumb that can't be taken back." So when I went into the ambulance with the talk of potential suicide, then all the red flags were raised for them. And I had a lovely weekend stay in a psychiatric emergency centre, which really drove the point home of, do you know what? I'm not as mental as all these people around me. I think I'm just tired. I think I'm just really exhausted. And I spoke my story to about 5 psychiatrists, and then respite care was made available to us, which was in the form of like a nanny coming to the home every morning for a length of time for about a year to help me deal with Ruben in the day. So they said, well, here's the cards you've got. This kid won't sleep, but if you must stay up with him, well, we can help you. We'll look after Ruben in the day and you can sleep in the day. And that was then, oh my God, Ollie was able to go to work. I was able to rebuild myself brick by brick. And it was just a godsend, because I had tried to get respite care prior to all this, but it's such a flooded system that it was impossible. I was just put on hold, or numbers that I would try and dial would be disconnected. So in a way, it was like things had to get that loud for action to happen.
Yeah, which is actually a real shame, isn't it?
Yeah. But man, it has given me this new empathy. When you hear reports of murder-suicides, it's like, do you know what? I can't judge that father or that mother for what they've done, because for a brief moment, I was there. That could have been me on the news. And I just think we can't judge these people. We can't do that. You've not stood a moment in their shoes, and you don't know what
Yeah.
they're dealing with.
Yeah. It is so interesting that you put that perspective on it. And I'm so glad that you shared the part that you felt like you were going to take your own life, and that Ollie would be better without the kids in his life as well. So I think it gives people that perspective of maybe that's what's going on in their head. And that's why I love these stories to be shared. And I know that I always reserve my judgment, because I have judged many, many years ago and found myself in those person's shoes and gone, oh gosh. And so that's been the lesson for me. And it is interesting how the media portrays stuff as well, and how quick we are to judge, but we don't know the backstory. And this is why, again, I think it's so important for us to learn to communicate and express our emotions in a safe way and create a safe space so that we're not misunderstood. Because a lot of times we might judge someone just because of their behavior or the interaction, and actually misunderstand them. And then down the track, we find out, oh, this has happened in their life. And we go, oh, if only I knew. But not everyone has the capacity to hear these kind of stories. So yeah, the murder-suicide, and you having that different level of empathy and compassion for them rather than
It's
judgment.
yeah, it's not an easy thing. And I think today we kind of expect things to be black and white, but there's so much grey, Jen, so much.
Definitely. So how old is Ruben now?
Ruben is now 5. He goes to a regular kindy with other children. He is just the light of my life. And I'm not just saying that. Honestly, I've got so much Virgo in me. Like, I like to plan things to the letter. I couldn't have planned my life to be as great as it is now. It would have had no room for a child with special needs. I can assure you that. But he's just this resilient, Little thing that just lights up a room. He's always happy. That's part of the Williams syndrome. And yeah, he has been, well, and Sienna too, they've both been the greatest teacher for me that I could have asked for.
Yes. I just wanted to go back a little bit because you said that you had lots of people coming to the house before you actually reached this point, like lots of intervention to help you with Reuben. And I find that there are a lot of people out there who are so awkward, even therapists, to broach the topic of emotions. So I guess I want to just highlight this, that if you are a worker in this space and you really feel that something's wrong, and you come across someone who's quite a strong personality like yourself, but if you intuitively feel that something's wrong, is push and really try and uncover the deeper stuff, or call for help for that person if you suspect.
For sure. We were doing lots of early intervention because his milestones, Reuben's milestones, were not being met. So crawling took ages. So we had physios coming in. We had, all sorts of people just checking everything was okay. I had sleep specialists coming in. And yet they all saw it. But I don't know, maybe I'm a really good Meryl Streep kind of actress in that I was so believable. But you're right, instinctively, you would know, looking in, as an outsider looking in, please push, please keep asking.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, if you suspect it, more than likely there is a problem. But I think in this society, like with the world of social media, it's almost like it's not a community, it's an audience. So it's like we have to be put on the bravado and everything's fine. Like, I really am not envious of people in the spotlight that have a newborn baby that are then on social media making it look like everything's fine, and because they're not. Like, look in their eyes.
Yeah.
It's a giveaway. They might have a truckload of makeup on or whatever and might be at that special event. But it's like, honor that. Like in India, there's that 40 days after the birth of a child where the child and the mother are massaged daily. That for that interaction. We don't have that here. It's like we're expected to pop the kid out and just carry on with our lives, and the kid's like a handbag and we just, sail through. But it's not the way. It's not the, well, there's no one way. But I would say, yeah, please honor the time you've got a newborn at home.
Yes. And just for mums as well, it's that whole thing of make sure you look after yourself so you can be a better parent to your child. But a lot of mums have difficulty asking for help or separating themselves and feel like, well, this is just the way it has to be, that you're meant to be tired and your baby's meant to cry all the time. And again, just finding those people who are supportive. It's that saying of love yourself before you can love others, support yourself before you can support others. Same goes for you being the mum, but you got that clarity when you got that respite, when you got to be removed from your kids. And maybe you didn't have to end up to that point. But yes, if you had have asked for support earlier, then maybe all these things wouldn't have happened.
But the funny thing, Jin, was in hindsight, when I started, so once the respite started, once I started looking after myself, Reuben then made improvements. So I just believe if the mother's well, the child will be well.
Yeah.
So there was just a big aha moment of all this time I've been focused on Reuben and I've been neglecting myself. And you're dead right. It's something that happens.
Yes. So what is it? You've talked a bit about this before, but what is it that you feel Reuben is here for in your life? So what have you come to terms with, going from the mum of asking yourself, why me? Do I deserve this? Yeah, who is Reuben in your life?
Reuben, he is just, he's this little guy that's come to earth. He picked me, I believe, just to show me there's another way to be. You don't need to be angry and miserable and competitive. You can just be. He's just himself. And I just really admire him. He's going to have some challenges in life, but he gets through them. And it's really taught me that life's not a race, that we're all moving at our own speed. Some of us are really fast, some of us are slower. It doesn't mean we're dumber or worse. It just means we're taking our time. And really, Sienna, my firstborn, she hit milestones really early. So things happened really quickly. She was talking and walking, and it was kind of a blur. Reuben, on the other hand, has really made me appreciate everything because it's been slowed down. And I love his energy that he brings into the world. I can see the difference he makes in people's lives. He has no biases. Everyone's a friend. Like doing a grocery shop, it will take longer because he stops and talks to everyone and, hi, how are you? And, oh, what have you got there? And I never had time for that before. Reuben's made me slow down, and I needed that.
I know that you're into past lives as well, and I'm a big believer in past lives. And some people will say, well, how do you explain the child that has this illness or whatever the disease state, or, they die early? Why did they deserve that? Because people are thinking in the present life and what karma did they play out to deserve this? But I believe that sometimes these kids come on this earth to teach us some big lessons. And unfortunately, in the cases when a child does die at a very young age, it is a huge process and a huge journey for everyone else around them to go through. And I know that you're into the past lives as well. So have you delved into that? Like, were you and Reuben in a past life together?
That's a good question, Jen. I actually, about 18 months ago, started to study with a shamanic practitioner just because it was an interest. And I thought, I want to do something for me. And it was one of the first things I took seriously for me to do. And this lady, Wendy, she deals with past lives. There's a big library. It's called the Akashic Records. So Wendy has taught me how to go into a meditation where you can go in and view the Akashic Records of past lives for yourself and other people. And for me, I go in there and I see, like, the big desk there, all these books, which is all lives. And it's like a Rolodex, and the Rolodex starts spinning and spinning and spinning, and you ask to be shown what's the most relevant one. So I know Reuben came in for me and Ollie, but more for Ollie, my husband, this life. They've got something going on, and I'm not the first person to be pointed this out. Other healers have said that. The boys are here to sort something out. Something has happened before. I'm not too clear on the actual story of it, but it was interesting. After Reuben's diagnosis, in real life, my husband Ollie said, do you know, I always knew I'd have a special needs child. And I'm like, what? When were you going to tell me that? But yeah, my husband's quite intuitive. He doesn't really believe the woo-woo, but it's interesting that there is a past there, and there's this love affair between Ollie and Reuben. If you ever saw them together, yes, they've reunited this life for sure.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Mm.
So is there any message that you would have to, I guess, parents, but in particular parents that have a special needs child?
That you've always got choice. I think back to all those times I was crying on the bathroom floor, feeling sorry for myself, feeling really sorry for Reuben, trying to look ahead at his life and thinking, again, look, why me? Why did this happen? And it took a choice to stand up and pick myself up and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. You've always got the choice. So you can choose to keep living as a victim, because that's what it is really. And I did that for a little bit. Every person that would ask about Reuben, I'd give them the whole spiel about Williams syndrome, but I don't now. I just see Williams syndrome as a feature of Reuben. It's like Reuben also has hazel eyes. My daughter also has strawberry blonde hair. I don't go telling strangers about, oh, the strawberry blonde hair. Like, it's just a feature. It doesn't make my daughter who she is. So I just see it, that it's a part of Reuben. It's interesting if you're just always the witness and the observer of it. I just think, wow, what's this kid thinking now? How's he going to fix this? So I just say to parents, just know you've always got choice, and don't be in that default setting of being the victim. Because if you believe that, then you will be that tired, grey-haired, special needs mom that, just is always on the lounge. You can be that, but know that it's a choice.
So good. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry that that's like the actual cold, hard truth of it.
So people need to hear it.
Do you know, it took me 18 months, Jen. I have been that victim on the lounge, and it's a horrible place to be. It's this sort of limbo world where nothing happens. And just remember, your kids are watching you, special needs or not. So I always have that in the back of my mind. I want to enrich their lives. I want to be interesting and do fun things with them. I don't want them to remember me as that mum that was always crying. And I mean, I don't push down tears. If I do cry in front of my kids now, but I don't want the memory of them to be, mum was always either angry with us or crying, because that's not a nice childhood to remember.
Yeah, it's a difference between suppressing emotions and having those negative tears. Again, we're on video with one another, but tears are not negative, but you know the difference when you're releasing and you're processing an emotion in front of them versus like it's all just stewing there and you're not really dealing with it. That's probably the stuff that's not that amazing to expose them to, because their little brains absorb everything, and we teach them, we condition them, and we instill belief systems into them, which we're going to share a lot more about your upbringing as well in a minute.
It's a doozy.
Yes. Well, thanks for that. Let's move on to the next chapter.
Okay.
Life before Reuben. And this is another great topic to cover, and it's around religion and beliefs. And I know that I've worked with quite a few people who have come across conflict, especially when conflict in belief systems, especially when they have been brought up a certain way. So I'll leave it to you to go into your upbringing and the belief system that you were brought up in and where you're at now.
So chapter 2, let's call this the cult years, because that's what it primarily was. My family is Italian-Australian. And it's funny, I was never Australian enough with my Aussie friends, and I was never Italian enough with my Italian family. I was always this kind of weirdo. But what then made it super weird was when I was 4, I'm the firstborn and I've got 2 brothers. My mum received a knock at the door, and it was Jehovah's Witnesses. And she actually admitted later that she took that as a sign that she needed to talk to them. So she let them in, and she began studying with them, and she converted from Catholicism to being a Jehovah's Witness. So you can imagine how that went down with my Italian family. My dad's side of the family, we started to not have much to do with. And it was pretty much just an instant isolation of our family in amongst my greater family. So Jehovah's Witnesses beliefs are very cultish. They're quite Christian, but really some wacky ideas, where I remember birthdays stopping and Christmas stopping, and you're to be no part of the world. So the actual world that you live in with unbelievers, they call unbelievers worldly people. So you're to really stand apart, and you're to be like Christ. You're to be like Jesus, and he was perfect, so you must be perfect. And their whole mission is to door knock, to try and convert people, because their belief is that there's going to be a big war, like an Armageddon, where there's going to be a huge battle because their Bible told them so. And there'll be this transformation where there'll be this paradise on earth. And if you're saved, like if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you'll be saved and live forever in paradise on this earth. They also don't take blood transfusions. Many Jehovah's Witness children have died with not accepting blood, all sorts of just wacky stuff. So this was my world now, and I had no choice in it, but I used to go along to these meetings with my mother and brothers. My father wasn't into it. And school was interesting because that's when you were out in the world and you couldn't really have worldly friends, like school friends. I went to school with another Jehovah's Witness, and I didn't really like her. So it was always this sort of awkward, I could never be my real self. Again, it was that Australian and Italian thing, but it was this time, it was like I was not really worldly enough to be worldly, and I was not really Jehovah enough to be with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, this kind of imbalance, weirdness. The only people I felt at home with were my brothers, where we could be ourselves. But it was just this awkwardness where, I guess in hindsight, it's goodbye root chakra, really, because there's no stability. You can't be yourself and be loved for it. You're always wondering, what are these people thinking? Am I good enough? Am I perfect enough? Have I done a lot of hours this month in door knocking? Like, we always kept track of our hours. Education wasn't encouraged, because why would you bother being studying to be a lawyer or a doctor when we're going to live forever on this paradise? If you were a woman, oh my God, you were just the bottom of the ladder, like bottom of the rung. So you just fast learnt, I can't say anything. I can't be myself. I definitely can't think what I want to think. It was very George Orwell, but in real life. We weren't encouraged to read outside literature that was worldly. We had to read the Jehovah's Witness Bible, and they've got magazines. And yeah, it was just this constant through school, constant fear of, on the weekends, we'd have to go witnessing, door knocking. And am I going to knock on the door of a friend at school? And am I going to be humiliated at school on Monday because they're going to tell everyone? So my childhood was weird, to say the least.
Now, we've done a little bit of work together on this. It was a topic that came up around some stored emotions. And I just wanted to share, I find it really interesting that whenever I'm working with people around religion and strong belief systems, when they're processing, because I always talk about emotions manifesting in your physical body, is I always find people feel it in their coccyx. And you talked about the root chakra, and the coccyx or the tailbone is where the root chakra starts. And root chakra is all about stability, foundations, values, sense of security and sense of grounding in life. And it develops in those years of 0 to 7, where we very much rely on our parents. And this was the world that your mum had brought you into. So, you go.
I was going to say, I can completely understand now where she was coming from. But yes, it definitely felt like, and I often refer to it as a bonsai'd life. It was like I wasn't allowed to grow, but I was really just trimmed. This is how to be, especially as a female. There's expectations for you. You're not going to have an education. There's only a handful of careers you can do. Like, this was the 90s. You could be in a trade, like a chef or a hairdresser, or you could be a secretary, basically it. And you're expected to be a wife and mother. And that's your lot in life.
Now, you have a really strong gut and strong intuition. And can you share with me what you remember as a young girl going to these meetings, and what you experienced, what was going through your mind, and what have you connected with now as an adult?
I just remember from a very young age thinking, I don't buy this. I don't believe this. It was just this awkward feeling of going into the hall, like we'd meet at a kingdom hall, it's called, like a big room. And we'd go there twice a week, and then another night in the week we'd meet in a home of a witness. So there was a lot of hours in the week keeping you busy studying, and then the weekends were witnessing. You kind of had no time to do anything you wanted to do or pursue other interests. So from quite an early age, I just had this gut feel of, I don't like this. I certainly don't like that person. And I didn't know where that came from. But in hindsight now, I think it was my body trying to prepare me for who to trust and who not to trust, because my mother certainly, God love her, didn't have that ability. Like, she was just in it, all in. And my brothers and I didn't ever buy it. But I remember knowing, just this knowing of that guy's a liar. And her, I don't know what's going on with her, but she's got some secrets. So it was like I knew things that later got revealed, and they were accurate. But yeah, it's like my senses heightened in order to protect me. And I have heard that said of a lot of people in interesting religions. Rose McGowan's one. She grew up in a really strict cult, and she says the same thing.
Mm. And so when did you separate yourself from the Jehovah's Witness?
So I was about 15, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a good go. Because all along, I kind of, I was like an armchair Christian. I thought, I better give it a good go. So I really tried, and no, I thought, no, I can't do this. And I got to about 17, and I remember having a conversation with Mum saying, Mum, I'm not going to go to the Sunday meeting. I'm not going anymore. And I remember her feeling like, why? What's wrong? You're not ill. You can come. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go anymore. I don't believe it. And the heartbreak on her face, because she's believing you're not going to be with me in paradise. You're choosing death. And one by one, my brothers stopped going. And yeah, it's an instant shutdown of all you know, because all my friends were Jehovah's Witnesses at that point. I was still in school. I was not friends with a lot of worldly people at school. All my social group, and it's hundreds of them, hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses were my friends. But when you say, I'm not going anymore, that's cut, and you're publicly ostracized. They announce from the platform, if you see Carla, she's under public reproof, they say. So it's like, do not associate with her, do not talk to her. So you're kind of just snubbed in the street. So I remember leaving school at year 10 to do hairdressing as an apprentice and feeling like, holy crap, I know no one. I don't have witness friends. I now don't have school friends because I've finished school. And now I'm in a hair salon as an apprentice, watching them do lines of speed before, work on a Saturday morning. Holy crap, like what's this world? This is worldly. I had the nous to know that I'm not going to dabble too much in drugs because I know I'm quite an addictive personality. But yeah, it was just this really interesting time for me.
Yes. And I just want to say to people, like, I've got nothing against religion, but I want to share this to speak to the people who might be questioning their beliefs and to hear your story about making that transition, because I think people experience this on all sorts of different levels, that when they want to all of a sudden become who they want to be and follow that path, people will drop off. But you will find new people.
That's right. Yeah, they're maybe not meant for you. Yeah. But another just eye-opener for me was from my teenage years, I started to listen to music that I wanted to listen to and read books like dystopian novels like George Orwell and Aldous Huxley. And I started to draw correlation. And I just thought, I don't want to be here. And actually everything I love is what they're saying from the platform not to love. So I did love things like meditation and yoga. And they would often say, this is the older men, that's emptying your mind and making room for demons to come in your mind. Like they would use fear tactics. So I just thought, no, I know I love what I love, and I want to expose myself to more of that. I don't love what you're about. Sorry, elders. And yeah, it was quite a quick end.
Because it sort of squashed your intuition, didn't it?
Well, it did, because you're told from the Bible's perspective, if you dabble in sort of occult things, that's demonic and that's bad. And we want to be, remember, Jesus, perfect, angels. That's black and bad and, not good. So I thought, I didn't have the language for it, but I thought, oh, this is not good. Because as a child, I used to be out in the garden talking to fairies and stuff. And I know a lot of children do. I kind of think that's real now in hindsight. But yeah, I remember a point where I'm saying to them in the flowers, I can't talk to you anymore because God won't let me. So I remember saying, sorry, I shut this chapter.
Yeah. So is there anything that you would say to other people, not just Jehovah's Witness, but people who are maybe thinking, I've got a conflict with my belief systems here?
Well, I always say question everything. I believe I was that kind of a child that always asked why. And my mum said I was annoying like that. But I believe you have to, even with just your everyday life, if you're in a religion or not. But certainly if you're amongst people and you're questioning it and it's not making sense to you and there's a hierarchy where you're perhaps at the bottom, maybe it's time to go and save yourself.
Brilliant. Let's go into chapter 3.
What's this one called?
This is you living your life.
Oh, okay.
So, or is there anything else that you want to share on that chapter?
Well, my relationship with God is different now. The God I knew as a child was this angry wizard in the sky, as my daughter says. Is that what you think? I don't think of him as an angry wizard in the sky now. I think I don't call him God. I call him source or universe. And I think there's a guidance system in there. So I have a different relationship with God now. It's not fear-based. And yeah, I want to talk to him. It's not expected. So religion really doesn't need to mean that you meet weekly in a room with people. You could be spiritual and be religious, but you just do it your way. I'm all about modifying, iterating. Just do it your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Express yourself the way you want to. And what you're doing now is pretty incredible with your work. And I feel like you've connected with your purpose for now. And that is perhaps something that it doesn't sound like it would have been accepted by the Jehovah's Witness for you to be doing what you're doing now. So, human design and everything else, tell us a little bit about that, because I've learned a lot from you about human design.
So human design. Now, I must say, I've always worked with women, but you might know I did hair and makeup. So it was always helping them feel special and seeing their brilliance. But once the lip gloss wore off, it was over for them. So I always thought, geez, I'd like to find a way to make women feel, or not just women, but humans feel amazing for a long time, not just for the longevity of lip gloss. So human design piqued my interest a few years ago, but it didn't feel right. I wasn't ready for it. And during COVID, actually, I started this 10-week course online to look into it, just for my own curiosity. And to explain it to your listeners that might not have heard of it, it's a cross between, how do I explain it? Astrology and Kabbalah and the chakra system and the I Ching, and it's quantum physics. And it was downloaded over 8 days by this man, Ra Uru Hu, who's no longer alive. But it's just this brilliant modality that I've never seen anything like it that's so spot on. So it's been described as a Myers-Briggs meets astrology. So it's definitely a manual for life. So you can see into yourself and see strengths and even what you're here this lifetime to do, if you want to delve that way. But it's quite layered and complex. But yeah, it's brilliant.
Yes. Now, just before we get further into it, I think a lot of people will understand that human design is, what are the 4 different types? And then people will be like, oh yeah, people ask me, what kind of HD am I?
Okay.
What are the 4 types?
Okay,
but
so
we'll go into it more later.
Okay, so I'll go into that now if you like.
Oh, okay, sure. Go for it.
Okay, I was just going to say really quickly, there's 5 types of categories to be. So there's 2 of them are very energetic beings. That's a generator or a manifesting generator. The other 3 are called non-energy beings, and that's a manifestor, a projector, and a reflector. So I can go into those more in detail at the end if you'd like, but It's very interesting to know where you sit. And once you hear it, it's like something clicks in you and you're like, huh.
Yes, because I know everyone has asked me over the past couple of years, what's your human design? And I'm like, manifesting generator. And they go, oh, me too. But then there is no uniqueness in that, because I'm like, we're kind of the same, but we're very
Yeah.
different. And this is where you come in and you really go into that detail. So riff on a little bit more. Human design.
Okay. So it's just when you look at it, so you can go and do this for free yourself. You need to know your date of birth, place of birth, time of birth, and you go to mybodygraph.com and you put all that in the software and it'll spit out at you your type and what you are. It will look alien-y, and I swear it is from aliens. Like, it's so 5D, like it's ahead of its time. And yet you can do a little bit of research on the types and what you are. But basically, a generator is here to really know themselves, to love what they do. And they've just got this drive, this sacral engine that they can go and go and go. Then you've got a manifesting generator who's similar. They've got this drive and energy, but they tend to be like a hummingbird, lots of interests. They can start and stop things quickly. They're the innovators. They've got fresh ideas. They think laterally. Then the next type is a manifester. They're here to do initiating. The first two I mentioned are really to live their life in response. They're just to do the thing they love to do in their life, and they'll find if they live this way, opportunities will come to them. Whereas a manifester works to do the initiating. They're here to start waves and movements. They've got the ideas, but they don't have the energy as such to see it through. So they really need to team up with someone with energy, like a generator or a manifesting generator. And then you've got a projector who really has this amazing aura to zero in on people and just know them really well. They're just an amazing guide for people because they've got this high vantage to see how the world is. And then you've got reflectors, which are 1% of the population. That's like seeing a unicorn, like they're really rare. They're like the reflectors of the community, and they will reflect back how everything's going, but they're quite a sensitive type.
I love personality types. Would you call it personality types?
I guess, yeah, your type, it's called.
Yeah, because everyone I find, unless they're very aware about all these different personality types, they know themselves and they think, why isn't everyone else like this? But we need the generators, the manifestors, the manifesting generators, the reflectors and projectors to make the world go around, because otherwise, what is it? If you're a manifester, you're just all ideas, but no follow through. So you need the other people to follow through for you. That's my basic understanding.
That's right. It's true. Like, everyone's got a role as such. So it's just very interesting. And it is a rabbit hole. Once you start to delve into it, it's very fascinating. And I mean, I've studied a little bit of it. I don't claim to know it all about human design. I don't think you ever could say you know it all. Like, it's amazing.
What I love about you is that you describe it and you break it down in a really easy to understand way. That's what I'm all about with this work. It doesn't have to be super esoteric or unattainable. We should all be able to access it. And you've done my human design chart reading, and I just listened to it. I didn't watch the video because I'm like, I don't want to learn about this. I'll just like hand it over to the expert. And it's like someone telling you all about yourself. Now, I feel like I know quite a bit about myself, but I'm still always willing to grow and challenge. It was just such a nice reaffirmation of the path that I'm on. And you came into my emotional body training group, and a number of those practitioners, they're learning all about this emotional body work, emotional processing, but really I want them to learn about themselves so they can take this work and make sure they're actually on that right path. And it was what I saw from the ones that had readings from you was that it was just, again, an affirmation of this is who I am, let me trust it. And this is what I felt, but this is what other people have told me. So I'm actually just going to run with what I felt, because that's exactly what someone who didn't know me told me.
Isn't it wild?
And then for the ones that were really incredibly stuck, and you know, sometimes I will sit there and I know that we'll always get there, but it's like, oh gosh, how are we going to get this person reconnected with their purpose? Because sometimes they are just so removed from who they are. And again, for you to come in and tell them who they are, their body hears it and they have those memories like, oh, when I was 9, I remember this is when I was at my optimum. And then everyone just squashed it all down. And or maybe you were brought up in a really religious community and all those beliefs just got squashed down, or all of your intuition. So it gave a couple of people that glimpse of like, yes, this is me. And actually, when I reconnect with this and I start to express in this way, I will be able to have a bigger impact.
Generally, when I do a reading for a person, I'm not telling them anything they don't know about themselves. Like, it might be buried, like you say, but yeah, it's a lot of people say it's like a big permission slip for me to be me, finally. Because like you say, we've been conditioned to be a certain way, or sit quietly and behave, or just believe what your parents believe. But really, it's like you are your own unique blueprint, and this is your blueprint. Don't you want to see that? Don't you want to know who you are? Like, and then you get into children's human design charts, because no two children are the same. You can then know how to parent them, know what they need. And well, for all of the types, but especially manifestors, they're quite self-sufficient. And a lot of them in their early childhood get kind of squashed and told to be quiet, and you're too much, you're too loud. But it's not the way to really let a child thrive, let alone conditioning on top of it for older people. So as a parent, I now know how to parent my children better. And now I can see, where's my old patterns and old beliefs and conditioning? Because this blueprint, this map, this is the real me. I'm trying to get back to that. So it's a very visual thing that you can see as well.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it's also about getting back into your body wisdom, which you'll love.
Yes, absolutely.
Stop doing things from logic, because
Yep.
logic's, driven for too long. And logic's great. I'm not bagging out your brain, but most people have so much body wisdom that they don't pay attention to it. So much intuition that I can show you with human design where you're intuitive. It's not a question of, am I intuitive? It's like, where? And I'll tell you specifically. Are you hearing things? Do you have a knowing? So it's really fascinating.
That was amazing, getting the feedback from everyone who had their human design chart reading from you, is that, oh, that gift that they have. Because I'm not a person that sees spirits, and I often say maybe it's because it scares me a little bit that I just block that out. But I know that I can see inside the body when I'm working on someone. Even if it's online, I can see all the emotions that are coming up for them. And when I'm training practitioners, I'm not training them to do the same thing. And because I understand there's different personality types, I want them to feed into their own gifts and their own intuition, not for them to learn how to look inside the body. Because some of them, they will see spirits, they will see forms. And it is just getting them to realize they're not crazy. And it's that whole spiritual connection that sometimes there are so many messages, but we just don't make sense of it. And that's what can make us literally crazy.
For sure. But all these gifts that you speak of can be developed. This is my studying with Wendy. It's like going to the gym. So if you're wanting to be more visual and clairvoyant, have more strength in that area, there are things you can do to strengthen that. But by nature, you've probably got one or two gifts already that you might not even know you've got. But it's very interesting because it's so visible with the body graph to see where it is.
Yeah. And I love how you talked about getting your kids' charts read as well, because just because they're your kids doesn't mean they're going to be like you. They are here to live out their own destiny and their own path. And if we can nurture that from an early age, we're probably going to have healthier kids, because they're going to live to their fullest expression rather than all this suppression and have all these health issues and mental imbalances that we see nowadays. Because that's what it's really about, is get in touch with yourself, live to your full purpose, and express yourself for who you really are. And that is where health is.
That's right. I mean, I'm a manifesting generator, so that's the one that does a lot of different things. So as a kid, I often started things but wouldn't see them through. And I was always told, well, you've got to see it through. You've started that sport, you've got to finish it. You're now learning piano, but you've only lasted a month. You've got to finish it. Whereas with a manifesting generator, they're going to start and stop what they feel, because they've learnt what they need for now. Same with reading, same with everything. So there's no right or wrong.
Yeah. So who would you recommend gets a human design chart reading?
Oh, it is medicine for everybody on the planet. If you want to understand yourself better, you'd get one for you. If you want to understand your partner better and how they communicate differently to you, brilliant. And then for children, also for groups, if you're in the corporate world, just to know who's on your team and how they're going to operate differently, because everyone's got strengths. So you can play to those strengths. So basically, I think it's going to be the new astrology chart. I think it's going to be how we do, how we're going to do business. It's like, oh, Jen, what's your channel? Or what's your little gate that you've got halfway and I've got the other one, so that when we come together, we make a channel.
Yes.
Let's do that together, because together we can be creative.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's going to be perhaps a different schooling system. I don't know, but I really am so excited. And I dare say it's time-coded human design, because everyone's talking about it now.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about it, but you're the first person that I've actually listened to who can explain it to me, because everyone just throws it out there, human design. And yeah, as I said, I don't want to learn about it. I just want someone to read my chart, and we'll share details of how people can get in touch with you a little bit later. And what I loved about you is, as a busy person, I didn't have to organize a consult with you. I just threw you my details and you sent me back a video, and I could just listen to it in my own time. And I listened to it over and over again, because you hear something different each time. And I know others have just taken notes on it. So yeah, it's not another consult or appointment that you have to tee up. You do it when you're able to do it. And that's what I love as a busy person. Now, you go into some other interesting stuff as well, Shamanic Journeys and Akashic records. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, okay. So yes, shaman studies is what I'm doing. So I'm just thinking my Jehovah's Witness friends would just be going, how bad are you? So yes, I've gone full circle and gone to the dark side, but I can do lots of interesting things with my shamanic journeying. So again, it's a meditation that I offer clients and friends, that if you've got a question, you've got a burning question and you want the answer to, I go into a meditation. It's called journeying, because it's done to the sound of a shamanic drum beat. And I can see things in this vision or meditation that I'm on, and ask the question on your behalf. So I often talk to your allies, whether it be your spirit guides or animal allies, and they'll show me or tell me, and I'll come back out of the journey, write down what I've seen, and then quickly record it on a Zoom for you, so that you can watch it back and see if it lands or resonates. Because often it's questions that, things like, what career am I to do, or what's next year got in store for me? So I can really pinpoint that for you. But yeah, I'm definitely loving it, because it's intuitive, it's not logical. So it's just amazing that even very corporate type masculine brained people also love it, because it can clarify things, maybe injuries they've got in this life that they're holding on to from a past life, or things like that can be shown to me. So it's a very interesting thing that I'm doing now. So very different to my hair and makeup.
Yeah, it is. And for those who are maybe questioning it, I just want to speak to this, is that you don't have to take it as gospel, but I know that I started this work delving into practitioners like yourself probably about 6 years ago now, and I would just listen out of curiosity. But then as things started to pan out, I was like, oh, they did mention this. And then you get to trust the process, and you get to trust the person that you work with. And now I do consult with yourself or other people to go, right, I need to make this decision in business, in life, partnerships. What do you think? And I don't just run with their answer. I just use it to support my decision.
Great. Because I think we've, again, forgotten about intuition, which is, if you think about like communities eons ago, like you would sit around the fire, or be in like this, little village, little community, you would go to the shaman if you had a burning question or an ailment. You'd go to the medicine man. And I think it's slowly coming back. With all these technologies and advancements we're making, we're still needing ways of old, because smartphones are making us dumber. I'm sure you'd attest to that. So we need to keep our humanity. And I think part of that is loving the earth, loving humans, and just, not forgetting that part of us, that we do have that internal wisdom. But if we don't, there's someone more sensitive or more attuned that can answer those questions for us.
Yeah. And these things have been around for centuries and even longer than that. And they're still around. So I think we do need to pull on them. And that's what I love, is trying to interweave the Eastern and ancient traditional philosophies into the current modern day world and make sense of it, and that it's not crazy.
No. And I believe more and more of it's going to happen, because children that were born of the year 2000 onward, I think they're extra sensitive. So when they're older, I think we're going to see a whole new stream of consciousness coming through as the group that they are. I think they're going to be very non-violent. They're going to be doing things, I dare say, the more feminine approach, where it's going to come from love. We've done it for how many centuries now, the sort of murder and conquer and very sort of, sorry to say, but more masculine, strategic way. I think that's slowly crumbling, and we're going to see more love and support and collaboration. It's not me versus you, it's let's collaborate. So I think this is the new age.
Everyone who's listening to this in like 20, 30, 40 years time, remember what Carla said.
Yes, for sure.
It's funny because I think the older generations are probably going, they're going to screw this world over.
No, but I mean, it's all about evolution, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah.
and change is hard for people to grasp. It takes quite a while. I think it's a decade for change to actually settle in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share about human design, Akashic records, or shamanic journeying?
I would like to say, look into it. Social media is rife with it right now. So look into it and just have a sticky beak. And if it feels right to you, reach out. I can answer any questions you've got, or if you'd like me to journey on your behalf, get in touch. But it's a very interesting thing. And I think once you've had the experience of it, it's not too scary or too woo-woo. I've got many corporate clients. So it's not a strange thing. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of it.
Yeah. And I highly recommend, if anyone does want to reach out to you to discover more, it isn't scary. You're just very practical about it. And I know I really try and pick out who I work with when I go into the spiritual stuff, which is, again, it's just normal stuff, but it's coming more to light in today's world. So you're very practical, you're easy to understand, very approachable about it, and you're not going to use big words on people that they don't understand. And I know that I've had several of my clients work with you, and just, it's made a massive difference in their life. So how do people find you?
So I've got a website in the pipeline, but till then, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I play. So my handle is @metaphysicalcompass. And for any email questions or inquiries, I am at metaphysicalcompass@gmail.com.
Cool. And your Instagram page is quite humorous.
Oh, because I love the absurdity of life. So you've always got to have a giggle, don't you?
Yeah. Now, some of the posts I do not understand.
I'm a bit out there.
Yeah. But your stories and just the stuff that you find from other accounts is really hilarious, and it definitely caters for the introverts out there.
Oh, thank you. I think it's having your human design chart read. If you're an empath or an introvert, it might answer a lot about yourself. So yeah, I'm one as well, so don't worry.
Great. So yes, if anyone is thinking about exploring their human design chart, or they want to have their Akashic records read, or you just want another take on what's going on in your life, or you need a little bit of support with what is that next step for you, then I highly recommend you reach out to Carla and just start.
Thank you, Jen. You're amazing. Thank you for what you do, by the way. I really am a huge admirer of your work. Big fangirl moment. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Carla. And thank you for sharing those two really pivotal moments in your life. And I know that it will help people. And I encourage, if you are listening to this, you're a special needs mum, or if you are going through a transition with your religious beliefs or been there, please always support everyone who comes on the podcast, because it is big to share this. So reach out to Carla and just let her know where you're at.
Yeah.
No hate mail.
No. But I'd love to hear your story. And I'd love, if you've got questions or are really lost, I've been there. I've been on my knees and just saying, what do I do? What do I do? Please email me. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Amazing. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
If you're keen to delve deeper into the mind-body connection and release stored emotions, I would love you to join me on my 6-week course called Release, where you get to work with me in a group environment alongside my amazing support coaches from all walks of life. This is all about teaching you how to process emotions versus cope with them, understand your body and what emotions you might be storing so you've got something to process, as well as understanding yourself and connecting with your true nature. The early bird offer ends 18th of February, and our first live call with me starts on March the 2nd, New Zealand time. All of the information is on the Release 6-week course page, which is courses.theartoflisteningtoyobody.com/release. And it's in the podcast notes if you need to go and grab it. I'd love to take this work deeper with you. There is the masterclass replay link on there as well. If you really want to get to know what you're in for, you can come on board. You can just listen so that you learn more about this work. But if you're someone who's stuck and you want to learn how to process your emotions, then I'm going to teach you how, and I'm going to support you along the way. Thanks for learning with me on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you like what you've heard, I would love if you could rate, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is The Art of Listening to Your Body. You can join my free Facebook group where I go live regularly to teach you about different conditions and the deeper underlying emotions at play.